You're listening to the Relentless Believer podcast, where faith meets action and impossible becomes inevitable. Let's begin.
Hi, friends. It's Tami Molinaro, host of the Relentless Believer podcast. Today, we're talking about burnout and how we as business owners can handle it, avoid it, and what causes it. Why the hustle culture is burning out Christian entrepreneurs. You can work hard without worshiping work. Let's start with this thought. If working harder automatically led to peace, the most exhausted entrepreneurs would be the most fulfilled. But that's not what we're seeing. Our dream is to have expendable income while working less. If you've heard the term work smarter, not harder, it's the sage advice that we all hear at some point because we fall into the trap of working harder to achieve better results. I can see how it would be easy to think that working harder would lead to happiness. After all, isn't that what the world teaches us? The irony here is that we work harder when we're happy, but we are rarely happy because we work hard. Many Christian business owners feel torn between wanting to honor God with their talents and gifts, but it doesn't usually start out profitably. So then you come to a crossroads of, well, do I make money or do I do what I'm supposed to do? Wanting to provide for your family, your employees, your community, wanting to go quickly because, more is better, right? And, money doing what you're supposed to be doing sounds like the dream. But hustle culture tells us that if you put more hours in, you'll get a bigger blessing. And so it's like dangling a carrot in front of the horse. A little bit farther, work a little bit harder. And then they tell you that rest is laziness. And if we're being honest, we love God, but we feel guilty for being tired. After all, we are human. Tired is going to happen. But rest is not weakness. The world tells us that if you stop, you'll fall behind. Time off for sick or vacation time, family events, these are things that can add stress and burnout to an already overloaded plate. I mean, I can think of times where I was working my corporate job and I was made to feel like I was abandoning my job if I had to stay home to care for my sick child. Because of that, I didn't actually take any time off for myself when it was my turn to be sick. And the trauma of it all just kind of left me stuck when I transitioned into being a business owner. These are things that the world tells you, and they're wrong. Scripture tells us a very different story about work, rest, and renewal. So how do you reconcile this? Nehemiah 8:10 says, "The joy of the Lord is your strength." Okay, so what does that mean in this context? I see that as keep your eyes on God. Don't get sidetracked by the minutia of running a business. It sounds simple, but it's a really hard thing to do. You must be intentional in your practice for this to work. That means carving out some time at the beginning or the end of your day to spend time with God in reflection and prayer. Journaling is a great tool to record what you're feeling and to keep track of when your prayers become answered prayers. Hustle culture is rooted in the ways of the world. It teaches us that those who work harder gain more. Oh, but sometimes those who work the hardest struggle the most. It's not a foolproof recipe for success as they would have you believe. I want you to know that you can work hard without worshiping work. That stings a bit, I know, because it stung a bit for me too. For some, work becomes an idol because it gives you money to pay your bills, to feed your family, and freedom to do what you want. But we tend to forget that it's really God who brings all of this to us. If He will provide for the sparrows, will He not provide for you too, His most beloved creation? That's a paraphrase of Matthew 6:26, if you're looking for where I got that. Here's some key points to remember. Hustle culture promises reward for exhaustion. Hustle culture also rarely delivers. Hustle culture quotes. This is a good one. I found a couple of quotes that are all about some good hard work. However, I feel like they're a bit misleading. The first one is, happiness is the real sense of fulfillment that comes from hard work. That's Joseph Barbera. See, he thinks that happiness comes from hard work. I don't think so. True motivation comes from achievement, personal development, job satisfaction, and recognition. That's Frederick Herzberg. These quotes are firmly rooted in hustle culture. Having attained plenty of achievement and recognition, I cannot say I feel like these statements are true for me as someone who doesn't seek validation from others. These quotes, they remind me that I've spent far too much time in my youth seeking validation from others, but coming away empty-handed. I used to enter into these big competitions that promised lots of recognition and notoriety, but it never filled the hole in my heart. I wasn't doing my craft to impress people. I was doing it to serve them. And once I focused on serving rather than winning, my business took off. I recommend you seek validation from the Lord, as it really is just His opinion that matters. He made me. He formed me. He set me to a purpose. And I can work hard all day long at the wrong purpose, but where will that get me? As a business owner, I feel like we are expected to always be available, especially if we don't run a brick and mortar. In a world that thrives on me-first mentality and instant gratification, customers will message you at all hours of the day and night and actually expect an answer right away. We have been trained that making a customer wait for an answer is how you will lose business. It makes me long for the old days of landlines and healthier boundaries because all businesses would close by 6. In hustle culture, constant availability is glorified. Being always available to everyone at all times is utterly exhausting. Cell phones are always on, chat apps and email, they're always on. And I can't tell you how many times I've gotten a text message or emails from a client at 11, midnight, and they just assume that because your phone is on that you're available, and it makes it really hard to have any downtime for yourself or your family. Strict boundaries need to be put into place and enforced to ensure that you're not operating from an empty bucket. For me, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb after, I think it's 8 p.m. So if you're a client calling after 8 p.m., you're definitely not going to talk to me that night. You have to wait till the next morning during my business hours, and I'll call you back. Being available at all times it makes rest feel irresponsible. At least it does in the beginning. It just feels like you need to be going all the time, the moment your feet hit the floor in the morning to the moment you go to bed. And for Christian business owners, this can lead to burnout. It's often masked as obedience. You feel guilty when you're resting or spending time with your family, but then you feel guilty when you're not spending time with your family because you're working too much. This leads to feeling distant from God despite doing good work because you do good work all the time and leave little time left for God. And then it feels like you have nothing left to give, so it's really hard to be thankful in those moments. It's important to reframe. Burnout doesn't come from working hard. It comes from working disconnected from God's design. Let that sink in. Stings a little bit, doesn't it? Jesus invites us to talk about it in Matthew 11:28 through 30. He says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Jesus does not say, "Come to me after you've finished your work or after you've reached a stopping point." And he doesn't say, "Come to me once you've earned your rest," or when you've worked so hard your body no longer gives you a choice. No, he says, "Come to me and I will give you rest." His yoke is still work, but it is light. It is aligned, not crushing. So the practical takeaway here is if your business is constantly leaving you weary instead of strengthened, it's worth asking whose yoke you're carrying. For me, it means doing one or both of these things, creating something for me and or getting away for a change of scenery for a short period of time. As a creative, I get so lost in creating for other people that I tend to lose sight of my own vision. And it's good to create something that makes my heart sing, something that challenges me with creative freedom, something that is wildly different from the vanilla work I'm paid to create day in and day out. This is why my family and I have outlandish family portraits that look more like movie posters and storybooks. I've given myself a deadline every year to create at least one big piece of art featuring my most treasured thing, my family. If you haven't seen them, I recommend you track down my Facebook page, Trademark Photos by Tami McKinney, and go have a look. It's also on my photography website, on the About Me page anyway, TamiMcKinney.com. The other thing I can do when I've had too much work and not enough play is to completely unplug for a while and get away, even if it's just for a weekend, something outside of my routine. I tend to live, eat, breathe, and do nothing but work all the time from the moment I roll out of bed to the moment I pass out at night. And it's very hard to shut off my brain and be fully present for my family. I know it's time to do so when I get short with them because my brain just cannot process 342 decisions all at once. The mental exhaustion just takes hold and burnout begins. If funds don't exist for a road trip, just go somewhere new, get away. It's good to change your surroundings, even just for a little bit, even if it's just a couple hours. I live near Route 66, so I like to take short road trips to explore hidden gems and local stops from bygone eras. I'm nostalgic like that, and it refuels me every time. And it also doesn't require a lot of money, so it's great to just get out and do something else for a little while. Work requires planning. We know this, but sometimes it's work to find time to rest. And that is why I created the Sabbath Planner. It's one of the items available in our Patreon store with this week's episode. The Sabbath Planner is part of our Faith First Family Business Planner. Be sure to check it out in the Relentless Believer podcast on Patreon. The longer we live in the hustle, the more it takes out of us. Be renewed, as it says in Romans 2:12. Do not be conformed to the ways of this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, and that by testing you may discern that the will of God is good and acceptable and perfect. And also in Isaiah 40:31, it says that they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Doesn't that sound amazing? So what I'm saying here is waiting on the Lord is not passive. It requires intention and focus. It can be as simple as a Bible study in the morning, sitting in silence, or going for a walk. I listen to a lot of Christian music. I listen to a lot of Christian music, but I'm going to recommend that in these moments, you turn the music off so you can better wait and listen for the Lord's direction. It is an exchange of our surrender for His strength. There's so much noise already in the world, and from all the distractions and responsibilities that we already have, that we can't hear Him when He speaks most of the time. So it's important to set aside time to actively listen for His voice. So what do we do when we've gone too far, worked too long, or caught ourselves in overload? How do we handle that in the real world? Oftentimes, entrepreneurs will push through exhaustion and will ignore the classic warning signs. It's easy to overdo it when you're focused on deadlines. If you don't heed your body's warning on taking a break or finding some downtime, it will decide for you what that timing is. And in my experience, it's never convenient. We tend to treat rest as a reward instead of a requirement. Consider this. If we are directed to rest only once a year, like, say, take a vacation, the Bible would have said so, but it tells you to rest weekly at a minimum. In fact, it commands us to keep the Sabbath. It's easy to get carried away. I tend to take 2 or 3 weeks straight sometimes in a row of just nonstop work. I don't take a day off. That's during my busy season. And I get stuck in that hustle culture every fall. And so it never bodes well for my body. I usually end up sick, injured, or burnt out, and sometimes all of the above. And it takes me a long time to come back from that. Be sure to schedule yourself some downtime daily to refresh yourself. For me, sometimes that's just sitting alone for a while with a coloring book. I love the adult coloring books and the names of God, and there's all kinds of really great adult coloring books out there. And just listen to some music. It's what refreshes me. And it's great to not have to actually think about anything for a while. So let's reframe this for a little bit. Rest isn't quitting, it's refueling. Also, rest is a weapon. The devil thrives on your chaos and weariness and lack of focus. Don't give him what he wants. Rest equals focus and ability to reason. It's a lot harder to fall for his tricks if you are well rested. So what I'm saying is don't give up. Don't grind yourself into the ground either. Let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. That's Galatians 6:9. God calls us to persevere and be diligent, but not to destroy our health, not to neglect our families, and not to sacrifice our spiritual life. There's a difference between perseverance and punishment. That means if you're really looking out for yourself, you should eat healthy foods, not fast food or junk food all the time. Drink lots of water, limit your sodas and sweets, and rest frequently. Let that word rest not become a dirty 4-letter word. So how do you balance rest and work throughout the day? I use the Pomodoro method when I really need to lock in. Let's face it, I'm easily distracted. And so with the Pomodoro method, it's an app where you can set aside 20 to 30 minutes for work, and then you take a little 10-minute break. And for me, I get up and I walk around. It's great to get back to work after another 20 minutes. So you just go through this repetition of 20 minutes of work, 10 minutes of rest. And believe it or not, it actually is really good at helping to keep you focused. And for me, I like to get up and maybe do dishes or walk on a treadmill, do a little mini workout. It's a great way to get moving. You can set it up for all kinds of different intervals. It's up to you what your limitations are. But this is a great way to get up and just get moving and refresh your head periodically throughout the day. I love this method because it keeps me from sitting too long. Sometimes I like to read. Sometimes I'll work out. Sometimes I'll get stuff done in the house. And so it just kind of depends on what I need to get done. You can decide what is good for you that day. Remember to set proper boundaries between work and home life, though. Work only when you're at work and be present at home after work. That means you can't be emailing clients at home, setting appointments with night owls because that's when they're active or answering their calls at 10 p.m. I'm guilty of all the above because mainly I do work from home. And it's really hard for me to discern when to work and when not to work. So I had to start time blocking. And when I'm not working, so this way I'm not working when the kids get home from school. Like blocking gives you a task to complete in a certain time period on your calendar. So maybe I'm doing follow-up calls and admin duties from 10 to 11 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Or I'm only taking clients until 2 p.m. so I can be present with my kids at home. Remember to have these good boundaries and to enforce them. Also, remember to refuel. I read a book with a small group called Simplify by Bill Hybels, and it's stuck with me. In this book, he talks about how our life is like a bucket, but it has holes in it. And we are often serving from an empty bucket when we don't properly balance input and output. Everything we do either adds to the bucket or takes away from it. Work depletes it. Time off doing what you love adds to it. So always be replenishing your bucket if you want to have something to give, because you cannot effectively give to someone what you don't have. Be sure to take time for Bible studies, small groups, journaling, and whatever energizes you. So here's a little encouragement. Replace always on with intentional priorities. What does that mean? That means we're not always in go mode or crisis triage mode. We need to be very intentional on where we spend our energy. Schedule rest the same way you schedule a client. So this way, you're not handling your clients when you should be resting, and make sure you guard your resting time. Also ask yourself weekly, this is a big one, what did God actually ask me to do this week? I have forever used a paper planner on my desk right in front of me at all times. It has spaces for planning my priorities throughout the day and for keeping things written out right in front of me in checklist form. And this way I'm able to ensure that the things that need to get done actually get done. I'm famous for getting distracted with side quests. And if I'm just working off of a checklist, I'm also famous for adding things to that checklist just so I can check the little box. So it's good to go back and think about, what did I add that he never assigned? So sit down at the beginning of the week and again daily to think about it first thing in the morning. What are you having me do today, God? What is important to you? What do I need to do first? And then make sure you do it. This is how we can be intentionally obedient in our work. All right. So if this message hits close to home and you're realizing that you don't need to work less, but you do need to work more aligned, I created something to help. We have the Family First Business Planner on Patreon and the Sabbath Planner. Intentionally, you can schedule your rest without guilt. You can order your priorities correctly so that you align your business goals with your faith and your family. And we also have the Rest Accountability Tracker, because rest only works if it's taken and protected. It only helps you if you actually do it. This isn't about doing less. It's about doing what matters with God at the center. And now for a little encouragement. You are not a mess and you are not behind. It might feel like it, but God knew you'd be right where you are and expected every decision you've ever made. You're doing just fine. You're exactly who He knew you would be. I don't know about you, but I find that pretty comforting. Remember that burnout is not a badge of honor. Being tired is a dumb reason to fail and totally within your control. Avoid making dumb decisions by resting intentionally and guarding your heart against all that seeks to drain it. And remember that rest is a weapon if you use it. God cares about how you build, not just what you build. If you lose everything in the process, what is the point? Remember your why and make decisions accordingly. Jesus never asked you to destroy yourself for success. And what would Jesus do? Let's bring that back. Would his decision differ from yours daily, weekly, on any subject? Let that be a daily meditation as we seek to become more like Jesus in our daily lives. And I want to close in prayer. Lord, help us release the pressure to prove ourselves. We get so lost trying to get others to see our value when it's not their approval we should be seeking. Help us to remember that if you didn't assign it, we don't have to carry it and we can leave it all at the cross. Lord, teach us to work faithfully, rest boldly, and trust you fully with the results. May we seek peace in your timing and remember above all else to show love in all that we do. In Jesus' name, amen. It was great chatting with you all today. I'd love to hear your stories and how your faith has helped you overcome obstacles in your life or your business. Let's inspire others with our stories. Be sure to share how Jesus has changed your business and how your daily practices include his teachings. Reach out to me at relentlessbelieverpodcast.com.
Thanks for listening to the Relentless Believer Podcast. If you've got a story about living with relentless faith, we want to hear it. Tap the link below to send us a quick voice note and you could be featured on a future episode. And if you'd like to help us keep the conversation going, join our community on Patreon.